Spurs trade talks are intensifying as they are linked to a three-point sniper. This via the Athletic Cam Johnson. Highlighted in a potential trade for the San Antonio Spurs that would boost them significantly. And we're going to break this down here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment by hitting that subscribe button below so you don't miss the great content coming from myself, Josh, and Brian. But without further ado, actually, I just want to quickly say happy birthday to Gregg Popovich. We hope you're doing very well. That smile, we can't wait to see that smile again for the Spurs organization and on the side of the court. But happy birthday to the great Gregg Popovich. But without further ado, so this article is via The Athletic. NBA trades I'd love to see, including Lonzo to the Pistons. We don't worry about that. From Sam Vecenie of The Athletic. It's Brooklyn trading Cam Johnson in a 2025 first-round pick to San Antonio. San Antonio giving back Keldon Johnson in a 2025 first-round pick and a 2027 top 6 protected pick to Brooklyn. The price tag on Cam Johnson has been they want 2 first-round picks, and I understand there's a swap of picks, but we'll break that down here just in a moment. If there's one thing San Antonio needs to surround Wemby with, is shooting. Of course, the entire league is shooting. When people collapse, you dish out to them. You've got Stephon Castle, not the greatest shooter right now. You've got, obviously, Chris Paul is going to be retiring soon. Barnes is a good shooter, but he is on the outside of his age. Champagne's been up and down. Vassell's been hit or miss. He's been a little bit better as of the last few weeks. He's been getting his groove, but the shooting of the San Antonio Spurs is not the best, as we all know. They are 24th in the NBA in three-point shooting percentage, and it's hard to imagine a better influx of shooting talent than Cam Johnson, one of the game's best. And this trade here, it's not the big, it's Jimmy Butler, it's not Steph Curry, it's not Trae Young, Brandon Ingram, all of these massive people in massive trades that have been swirling around, and that's what happens when you've got a guy like Wemby and people want to see him win. Trades just start to swirl. This is a doable, very, very good trade that I love. You're getting rid of a guy in Keldon Johnson that this year hasn't been great. 12 points, 5 rebounds, an assist a game, 46% from the floor, 29% from 3. He toned up his body, tried to get himself in shape, but off his bench role, he's still not fully within his game, and right now he might just not be the fit that we need compared to this guy who is almost 20 a game, about 19.4, 4.1 rebounds, almost 3 assists, 49% from the floor and 42% from 3, and this is on a high volume. I understand he's in Brooklyn, so he's getting a good amount of shots, and of course that happens, but we saw how he did with the Suns. He was a good good player for the Suns, and he would be someone who fits the timeline of us. He is younger, plus he is somebody who is able to give us elite shooting on the outside. You can instantly put him in the starting lineup. I understand you might have to move Barnes to the bench, whatever you have to do. He is a starting caliber player, and then a guy like Champagnie might be able to even get more open looks, find his rhythm, because Champagnie has been off as of late as well. Spurs fans, you're likely, obviously, we want the 2025 draft. That's something that a lot of people have been talking about, where it's been, do we try to mortgage the future to go win now because he is so good, he being in Wemby? Or do we try to wait now because this team is not good enough, obviously, and one trade is not going to change the totality of our season? Or what do we do? We have so many draft picks. Josh highlighted on the last video because he was talking about how Atlanta's been falling, and that Atlanta pick truly can be now a lottery pick. Plus, we have the Spurs pick that could be a lottery pick. And then if the Bulls end up becoming between pick 11 and 14, there's a chance we have 3 first-round picks in the lottery this season. But we're in a situation now where there's obviously Cooper Flagg, and there's a lot of other people, Con Knipple, Tre Johnson, Ace Bailey. These people can really shoot, but if the Spurs are going to be in the position that they will probably end, which will be towards the back half of the draft of the lottery, around like 9 to 14, these players may not be there. I'm not sure any of these players last till 10. So even with these players available, the Spurs are going to need more shooting. You can't just have one or two shooters, especially in today's game. You've got Wemby who can stretch the floor. You've got Barnes. You've got Castle, who needs to definitely step up. Tre Jones is an unrestricted free agent after this season. They'll probably let him go, depending. They just need to get some extra shooting. They're right now 17th in offensive rating. They're 18th in defensive rating. That's also been over the last few games. But offensive rating 17th. They're just a middle-of-the-pack team overall, which is why their record is kind of middle of the pack. They're a couple games under 500. But there's just too many non-shooters, and Sochan is such a pivotal piece for everything else that he does. You can deal with one non-shooter on the floor. That's easy. You can deal with one guy who doesn't shoot the ball great. Castle needs to improve because you can't have two, and especially if you're going to have two guys on the floor constantly, you can't have a guy who is not marksman, and that is exactly what Cam Johnson is. The Nets price tag, as I said before, 2 first-rounders. They very much want 2 first-rounders for Cam Johnson. That has been the part where he has been tough to move because, yes, he's very good. We know how very good he is. We want to build for the future. Give us first, give us first, give us first. And so that's what they want. So if you throw the top 6 protected for the Spurs in 2027, you likely think at that point the Spurs are not going to be a great team. Not going to be a bad team, rather. They're not going to be a team that needs a top 6 pick. So at that point, you're like, okay, we're going to get whatever first round pick this is, we're going to get it. And for some odd reason, though, if, say, there is an injury and things don't go right in the front office, coaching goes bad, and like a team like the Pelicans this year, who had real hopes after being a 7th seed last year, then going into, obviously, the play-on, Zion has 40, gets injured, and then this year they're like, okay, we got DeJounte, we got Zion, we've got CJ McCollum, we can go progress, Brandon Ingram, we can go and be a top 5 seed, and then they get super injured. If that situation was to happen to the Spurs, we still can keep a first-round pick and not have to give up something crazy. So the top 6 protected, love that aspect. And then you have the aspect of the Nets already own 4 first-round picks, but they're all slotted to be lower because of trades, 23rd, 25th, 27th. So if we're able to move their worst pick, which would probably be, as of right now, Houston, depending on where the season ends, obviously, they trade the Houston pick to us, and we give them the Atlanta pick, whatever other pick that we have. We still get a couple first-round picks for the season, but we also give the Nets a better pick. And we get a guy in Cam Johnson who is still under contract for a few years. I believe he's under contract for 2 more years after this season. You get shooting, you're an instant playoff, you're an instant play-in contender right now. With him, of course, you're already a play-in contender, but you're an instant play-in to playoff contender with him right now. You don't mortgage the future, and you're able to build this roster. You still have picks to trade, you still have picks to draft people, but you also have a guy who can be there for the long haul, a shooter who defensively isn't great, but he does try. He is 6'8" with long arms, and plus when you have someone like that, you still have Wemby on the backside, who is the greatest defensive force we've seen since Tim Duncan, honestly, and then probably since Hakeem Olajuwon. And we need it. Those are the things that we need right now. We need a player like Cam Johnson to help boost us, because all of our rivals are deciding to actually, at this point, just get it going. I mean, the Spurs have had a good season comparatively to last year. They've won 20 games this year. They won 22 all of last season. We're not even at the All-Star break yet. By the All-Star break, there's a good chance the Spurs have more wins this year than they did the entirety of last season. That is a step in the right direction. And that's not wrong from the Spurs form or ever. But however, it's interesting to note that none of the Silver and Black's enemies, bottom dwellers. Quite the opposite, actually. And when we get into it, every Spurs rival is looking like they're going to make the playoffs. That's the Thunder, Rockets, Grizzlies, Mavs, who we're in division with, and then the Lakers. Of course, obviously the Lakers throughout the past, you've had the Fisher, the Kobe, Shaq Lakers versus the Duncan, Manu, Parker, all those teams, blah, blah, blah. You go on further to now AD's trying to make comments about, why is Wemby backhanded, like, Wemby, he's averaging like 4 blocks or something, but basically that the narrative's being pushed that he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Well, yeah, the narrative's being pushed because he's the best defensive player in the league, and he has been since he stepped on the court game 1. And it's like, that's just how it is. He affects the game in a way that even you don't, Anthony Davis, and you are an amazing defender. You are an amazing defender, but you don't affect the game in that way. And, I mean, when we go through all of those teams, Thunder, 1 seed. Rockets, 2 seed. Grizzlies, 3 seed. Lakers, 5 seed. And then the Mavericks are the 9. And the Mavericks obviously have been doing this without Luka for about the last month. I think it's been since Christmas. He got injured in that Christmas Day game against the Timberwolves. So over a month, the Mavericks have been just holding serve, doing exactly what they need to do, enough to wait for Luka to come back so they can make that push to staying in. But the 1, 2, 3, and 5 seed, obviously the Lakers don't have too many years left, which is okay, but the Grizzlies are young. They've got talent and a great coach. The Rockets are young. They've got talent. They've got assets to move and a good coach. And then the Thunder are young. They've got assets and a great coach, and they're this good, and they don't even have Chet, and they haven't had Chet for 2 months. So the Spurs are looking up at all the rivals like, man, we cannot continue to be bottom here and letting all of our guys win. I mean, by all of our guys, I mean all of our rivals win. But the thing about it is, in 1 year, we're going to have the best player out of all of them, so it's going to be okay. Like, Shea's probably going to win MVP this season unless Jokic does something crazy, and he deserves it. Shea's been amazing, 32, 5, and 6 this season. The Thunder now have the best record in the league because the Cavs, after a very hot start, have fallen back and kind of come back to reality. They're still having a great season, but Shea's probably going to be your MVP this year, deservingly so. Don't get me wrong. I think that he deserves it. I think this Thunder team is probably the best team in the league right now with how the Celtics are looking. You've got to take the mantle from the Celtics, but overall, they're probably the best team in the league. But they don't have an alien. They don't have an alien. So, like, we're going to have the best player out of all of them for the next decade plus. It's going to be okay. We just need to do things right. We can't force trades. We can't push too much. But we also can't just sit back and do nothing. We have to be smart with the next moves we make. Cam Johnson for Keldon Johnson, for a couple picks, trading here and there, that is a very smart move. You move forward with a guy who can be a pivotal 3rd or 4th option on a championship caliber team. Truly, he can go get his own shot if need be. He is an elite shooter in this game. Plus, he's got range, he's got length, and people can improve defensively. And with a guy like Wemby, with a guy like Stephon Castle on the outside, with an organization like the Spurs, defense is something that they always preach. He is someone who can actually improve defensively and become a more than adequate defender. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think that Cam Johnson to the San Antonio Spurs would be a big trade for them? Do you feel like it's giving up too much? And do you feel like this is something that realistically can happen? I truly do, because this trade isn't doing too much. It's not mortgaging the future just for now. You are working with your future and your now. But let me know what you guys think in the comments there. This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I will be seeing you guys very soon.